What is the most interesting statistic you know? Racing car drivers in the 1950s, 1960s and even into the 1970s had a lower survival rate than WWII fighter pilots. Meaning those racing drivers were statistically more likely to die than those flying in battle. Crazy. That's the US has 5% of the world's population, but consumes 70% of the world's prescription drugs. We are the society of if you have a problem, there's a pill that can fix it. 6 out of 7 dwarves are not happy. If you earned $180,000 per day since Jesus was born, you still wouldn't have as much money as Jeff Bezos. Veteran police detectives think that they are better at identifying lies than other people. But tests found that they are actually worse than the average population or a coin flip. Of the 335 million people living in the United States, approximately 23 million adults are completely edentulous, have no teeth. 100% of Canadian geese are **** jerks. I'm an Uber driver with around 750 trips, so statistically I've been alone in a car with around 7 or so psychopaths. Abortion rates in the US increased substantially after the 1973 Roe v. Wade case. Conversely, crime rates in the US fell roughly 20% between 1997 and 2014. It has been theorized that this is attributable to legalized abortion. Some EMS agencies in Arizona and Nevada have been using CCR, cardiocerebral resuscitation, instead of the standard CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Basically starting by doing 200 chest compression non-stop instead of 30 with 2 rescue breaths. Within a year of implementing it, EMS providers reported that their save rate went from 1% to 27%. This last year THST number has gone up to around 50%. Furthermore, the saves are no longer just getting a pulse/heartbeat back, people are now more often neurologically intact. The leading cause of death for pregnant women is murder. 100% of your mothers partake in sexual intercourse with me, respectfully. The average drunk driver drives under the influence more than 80 times before being arrested for the first time. There are more airplanes in the sea than submarines in the sky. 80% of black gun deaths are homicides, 80% of white gun deaths are suicides. Edit source. If Gretzky never scored a goal he would still have the most points or something like that. IDK if it's the most interesting, but it's one I like to throw out there when certain Americans complain about California. 1 in 11 Americans are Californian. Cars do more damage to the environment during their manufacture than they do over their entire lifetime on the road. 7 out of 5 people don't understand fractions. Protected fishing zones in Europe are more overfished than unprotected zones. People here don't go there and then go there. In the US, 15% of the patients who see the doctor for a sore throat actually have a bacterial infection. But over 60% of those patients walk away with a prescription for antibiotics. I just recently found that black people make up 12% of the US population, yet they make up 33% of the prison population. In 100% of Reddit threads that mention statistics, someone replies with some variation of 60% of statistics are made up. 67% of people make up about 2/3 of the world's population. Sex Panther, a cologne that's illegal in 9 countries, works 60% of the time all the time. 1/5 of America's electricity is produced by nuclear energy. When asked would you fight for your country, 95% of Moroccans said yes. You could search this statistic on Google. You are more likely to get killed by someone you know than by a stranger. 89% of all Japanese destroyers, starting with the Munakase class and ending with the Akizuki class, 121 over 136, were sunk during WWII, with 6 over 11 classes having a 100% loss rate. Matsuki, Atsuharu, Shiratsu Ayu, Asashio, Yugumo, the one-off Shimakes, and the lowest loss rate still being 50%, Akizuki. For comparison, the US Navy's Fletcher class alone had just a 9% loss rate, 19 over 175, with a handful more constructive total losses. Also keep in mind this means the US built more destroyers of a single class from 1941 to 1945 than the IJN built total from 1918 to 1945. And while I believe overall American destroyer losses were higher than that, I haven't actually put together all the losses. They were way near the IJN's catastrophic numbers. Similar goes for British destroyers, definitely higher than America's numbers, but not near as bad as Japan's. There's a roughly 40% chance that any given murderer will get away with their crime. It would take 1.2 million mosquitoes, each sucking at once, to completely drain the average human of blood. Most people have an above average number of legs. The most dangerous world record to attempt is the water speed record, with an 85% mortality rate. The reason being that at the speeds they reach, 300 plus miles per hour, air resistance is so strong that, if the boat tilts even slightly too far up, it will completely flip and crash into the water at insanely fast speeds. And as you can imagine, it's pretty easy to tilt too far up when you're constantly bouncing on waves. If an event happens in a second, then a 1 in a million event should happen once every 11 days. A 1 in a billion event should statistically happen 2 or 3 times per lifetime, 1 every 30-ish years. A little less cool but still interesting, if you properly shuffle a deck of cards, there is almost a 100% chance that the order of cards has never been seen before in all of human history. One of my favorites, if plays were stacked up back to back, the average NFL game would only be roughly 12 minutes long. I worked on a sports app that was trying to get more fan engagement, and I stumbled upon this when looking at some data that compressed real play time without regard to the broadcast, and I was shocked. People spend so much of their day engaged with football, and it is a testament, depending on your perspective I guess, to how the league was able to commercialize that sport. The average broadcast is about 3.5 hours. They squeeze that out of 12 minutes of playing time. In a random group of 23 people, there's about a 50% chance that 2 of them will have the same birthday. In a group of 75 people, there's a 99.99% chance. 4 out of 5 dentists think that other guy's an asshole. 85% women agree that size does not matter. What matters is how you use your tool. My son has bilateral coloboma. His pupils are oval instead of round. Only 1 in 10,000 babies are born with it, while Down syndrome is 1 in 700. He also has childhood apraxia of speech. His brain has a hard time telling the mouth what to say. Only 1 in 1,000 children have CAS. About half of CEOs are in the 95th percentile for height. Every human on average has about 1 testicle. Water expands 1700x when it becomes steam. I don't know why, but to me, it's so interesting that Oregon's state flag is the only US state flag that has 2 different sides. And Ohio's state flag is the only US state flag that is not rectangular and has more than 4 edges. The 10th President of the USA, President John Tyler, has a grandson that is alive today. Australia has way more kangaroos than humans. The Vatican has roughly 5 popes per square mile. California has a bigger population than all of Canada. The risk of child abuse goes up by at least 7 times when an unrelated male moves in with kids. I really wish more parents would be more selective on who they allow around their kids, and think twice before setting up house. As a parent, you have one freaking job. Toddler boys are at the highest risk of child abuse. Majority of people on people crime are among peers. It is almost always someone you know. Women cheat more than men. The S&P 500 index has bounced back from every market crash during its lifetime. When in doubt, zoom out, and you'll see market trend continues to go up after each dip. Every time I get told we are 98% genetically similar to chimpanzees, and it happens from time to time, I respond, yeah, but we are 50% genetically similar to a cabbage. So a few percentage points probably make quite a big difference. Dan Bichette had over 30 home runs and 133 RBIs in 1999, came in second in MVP voting all, while have a -2 WAR. In Australia, 68.8% of all men who pay child support are not the fathers of the children they pay child support for. It is so expansive that as these women are on a single parent pension, the Australian government will not make them pay back the money. The reason given was the taxpayer pays for their sole parent benefit, and it is unfair to make the taxpayer cough up the money. 13 over 50. That 78% of statistics are made up on the spot. On a long enough timeline, the survival rate for everyone drops to 0. That less than 10% of the US military are combat arms and less than 1% have even seen combat. Source: I'm the 1%. 100% of my statistics are wrong. Pickles cause cancer. 100% of Russian soldiers who died of cancer ate pickles. Statistics can say anything you want them to. They are so fun to play with. FYI, that statistic came from the esteemed Journal of Irreproducible Results, given to me by a professor emeritus of statistics, who was my adopted grandpa. I think the journal is no longer being printed, but it was fun. My high school teachers hated it, lol. Spending 2 hours on your phone a day is equal to 30 days of the year. You have more chance of getting hit by a car than winning the lottery. Surveys say 99% of people don't mind filling in surveys. The half-life of facts. In the field of medicine, 50% of what is known is proven incorrect within 18 to 24 months. 100% of divorced people have been married at least one day.